Well, now it's time for our first guest. You may know Adam Savage as the co-host and executive producer of Mythbusters and the host of the brand new Mythbusters Jr. But today he's here to talk about his new book, Every Tool's a Hammer. The book serves as a love letter to creativity, secret thrills, exploring, and more. Everyone, please give a warm Bill Bunch welcome to Adam Savage.
I like that your name is on your shirt just in case we forget.
Yes, exactly. That's how I found my way home.
Yeah.
Great fun.
Well, Adam, thank you so much for being here. Tell us about the book, Every Tool's a Hammer. It sounds like it's a very interesting, cool book.
Yeah, I thought when I started writing this that I was going to write a book that was sort of instructional about making and some of the lessons that I've learned in the shop. And it ended up becoming much more of a philosophical and autobiographical, as you said in the intro, love letter to making. I feel really strongly that being able to reach out and make things that are important to me is one of my superpowers, and I want everyone to experience this. And I don't think of making as just a physical thing either. It's like, it's dancing, it's making dresses or tables or poetry or whatever it is that you're doing creatively. I want everyone to get that itch.
Right, and I think what's so important, what's so cool about this book and something that you're doing is so successful is like you're trying to inspire the next generation of thinkers and creators. Can you tell us like why that was so important to you?
Well, the next the next generation's all we got.
Yeah.
It's really important that we raise a generation of digital natives who are comfortable with the incredible tools that we're developing, because rapid prototyping is very soon going to become rapid manufacturing.
Right.
And I'm dying to buy my next iPhone case from a kid down the street rather than from some giant corporation.
Totally.
Right.
And that gets me really excited about equalizing that access to making for everybody.
And what are some of your favorite projects featured in the book?
Oh, I cover so many.
Yeah.
There's a prop from the beginning of Hellboy where Rasputin gives birth to Hellboy with this crazy steampunk glove. I spent 4.5 years replicating it from pictures.
Wow.
Having the glass blown, machining all the parts myself, doing all the leather work, and it's one of my favorite objects in my shop.
I'm impressed.
Yeah, I love in the book the tips that you give, and one of them is not to wait until something is perfect, which I think is such a good tip, because people will stop themselves before they even get started.
Absolutely. The perfect is the enemy of the done.
Yeah.
And there is never going to be a perfect moment, a perfect workbench, the right mood. You just have to start doing it.
And on that note, what is the best piece of advice you've been given about creating and building?
Oh, wow, that is a really good question. Actually, it comes right back to that. It's that Goethe quote about beginning anything has genius, power, and magic in it. That it's, to me, I think about making in terms of physics. So I think about every action you take that moves you towards your goal is about building the momentum. And so I include all these other tips in the book about keeping momentum. List making, I put check boxes and I color them in. I love colored in check boxes because they mean I've made progress. I'll even add colored check boxes after a list is done to make it look more impressive.
Wow. I love that. The book also features some other builders like Nick Offerman, who I love.
Legend.
So how did you get him and some of the other guys included?
I called him up.
Yeah?
Nick is such a passionate ambassador for making and its power. And he and I got our start in very similar ways in the theater industry. Building flats, being terrible carpenters, and slowly came around to understanding the grace of building things well and precisely. And he's also unabashed about talking about making as an act of love, as an act of affection for the things and the people in your life.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, and you, of course, were the executive producer and co-host of Mythbusters for 14 years.
I still have all my fingers and toes.
Yes. Are there any fun stories or myths that stand out to you from that period?
You know, there's one I talk about in the book here. We were doing a story about, in the movies, the hero always escapes from the bad guys by jumping into a dumpster and then jumping out and escaping. So how safe is it to jump into a dumpster? And so we tested that on the show. We got trained how to jump off a building by a stuntman named Randy Lamb. And then I knew we would have two parts to this episode. There'd be a training sequence and a testing sequence. So for the training sequence, I made Jamie and I wear sweatsuits with trainee on the front. But for the testing sequence, I wanted something dramatic. So I decided I would put together Neo's costume from The Matrix.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
And so I bought the coat, I got some boots, I got the sunglasses, and on the day of testing, I went to my car and I put on the costume and I came back around and my whole crew is looking at me and they're all going, they're all like suppressing their church giggles. And I felt so exposed. And I felt just as exposed as I did when I was 12 on Halloween, and the suit of armor I made me feel powerful. But I also recognized I was exposed because my crew was my family, and they could see me. They could see the passion that I was bringing to this. And you know, our hobbies, our passions, they're weird. They're all a little strange. And I don't pretend that I'm making the world a better place by making the costumes and props that I make, but following those passions is the engine for everything else I've achieved in my life. So I pay it the honor it deserves.
And you are now the host of Mythbusters Junior.
Yes.
Tell us how that's different from the original program.
It's different because the hosts are so much smarter. Those kids are so amazing. I love them so much. The last summer we spent shooting the show. The first season of the show was incredible. Their brains are so fertile, and their enthusiasm is so infectious. I loved giving them the tour through what the tenure from hosting Mythbusters was like for me. I also have a brand new show coming up on the Science Channel in June called Savage Builds, in which I build absurd things every week with different amazing collaborators and engineers.
Oh, that's awesome.
In the first episode, we make a suit of Iron Man armor out of 3D printed titanium.
Whoa.
Whoa.
That's so cool.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's savage.
That is
It really is.
really savage.
And you also produce and you're the star on Tested.com's YouTube channel, right?
Yes.
Can you tell us more about that and what it's like to wear multiple hats?
Well, Tested is, it is multiple hats. Tested, my team at Tested is an incredible team of makers and storytellers, and our whole goal is to continue telling stories about making, but also not how-tos about making. It's more like what happened. So whenever I make something, somewhere along the line, I screw up and I feel terrible about the build. Like I feel like someone's gonna give me a tap and say it's time to go home. And that happens in every build for every maker, for every creator, for every artist there is. And so on Tested, we tell those stories. We will do videos with me and Simone Yatch, the queen of, can I say shitty robots?
Yep.
Yeah.
Building stuff together and it not working the way we expected. Normalizing the fact that the creative process is a messy one is the main story that we're telling on Tested.
I love that.
Well, before you go, we just thought we would use your expertise to debunk certain myths that scare us.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, Allie, why don't you
I'm gonna
All
start
right,
us off.
kids.
So a penny dropping from the Empire State Building can kill a person.
It will not kill you. Nope.
Really?
No, all you have to
I
do
really
is.
was sure about that.
Actually, last year I went on Colbert and he shot me in the butt with a penny traveling at its terminal velocity, and it did not kill me. And by the way,
Did it leave a mark?
here's the
penny
thing.
stuck in your
Yeah,
ass,
do you have a
though?
butt bruise?
No,
I really thought you were
okay,
going to
left
show
a
us your
little
butt
mark.
for a second. I was like, whoa.
When we filmed this episode, we went to the observation deck of the Empire State Building and subsequent decks below that. And I will tell you that every deck below the observation deck is littered with change.
Oh, really?
So New Yorkers are a bunch of murderous.
Yeah,
Like
so that's,
assholes.
That's really like effed up. They're like wanting to kill people. Like,
yeah,
this may hurt
exactly.
someone.
But no, the terminal velocity of a penny is about 70 miles per hour.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, so what happens when you swallow gum? Does it really take 7 years to digest?
It does. Well, it might take 7 years. I don't know how long it would take your stomach acid to work on chewing gum, but your body passes it just like anything else you eat, like pennies or bottles.
Like pennies.
So big pennies.
Is that a common
Back to
thing? Okay.
pennies.
Good to
Don't
know.
eat pennies. They have zinc in them now, and if there's a scratch, the zinc will react with your stomach acid. It's a bad
Bad.
thing.
All right, well, don't tell me what to do. Anyway, I have another one. What
Okay.
about using the 5-second rule to eat food that's fallen on the floor?
I feel like the 5 seconds. First of all, there's no difference between 1 second and 5 seconds or 30 seconds.
I don't
Okay.
believe it.
You're just going to gather the same amount of
That's
bacteria.
right. Time is fake.
But my question is, what's your immune system for anyway? It's how I build a robust immune system is eating M&Ms off the floor.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this one's be hard for you to disprove, and I'm genuinely afraid of it. Okay. Chanting Bloody Mary in the mirror 3 times gets her to appear. Because have you ever done it? Does anyone know if it doesn't work?
I've done it. I've done it.
Did she appear?
I want to hear your answer.
Yeah.
No, Candyman, Beetlejuice, none of it will bring
sure?
anybody.
Are you
no.
sure?
Queen Bloody
Candyman
Mary.
is definitely a real man.
What's that?
Do you believe in ghosts?
I do not.
Really?
Me too.
Skeptic.
I'm
fellow
going to send
skeptic.
ghosts to both of you.
No, don't.
3 a.m. Watch your backs.
Keep your eyes open.
Adam, we'll send you ghosts, but I want to thank you so much for being here and helping us through our various
Thank you
myths.
very much, you guys.
Everyone make sure to pick up a copy of Every Tool's a Hammer wherever books are sold.